Kids are back to class, and we have some important tips for parents when it comes to your child's mental health. Plus, the police and fire departments rely on community support. Coming up, we'll recognize a volunteer who has his hand in just about every volunteer opportunity. I'm Teresa Minarchuk.
I'm Kurt Friesen. Welcome to Lake Area Beat. How was your summer?
It was fun. It was good, short, nice to be out and doing things. How about yours?
Yeah, it was, I'd say, really busy. I think everyone tries to cram everything in, so
yes,
we'll hope for a longer one next year and make the best of fall and winter.
Maybe we'll have a nice fall. Do you think? Anxiety and depression have been on the rise among teens since before the pandemic, and the numbers are continuing to rise.
As kids adjust to going back to school, a local mental health expert has some advice for parents.
We've now grown to almost 25 therapists in 3 locations.
Since beginning at Wild Tree Wellness 6 years ago, therapist Liz Kittleson has witnessed the need for mental health services sharply increase in recent years.
A lot of kids and teens right now are experiencing, I would say, a really big rise in anxiety and depression. Anxiety due to just so much uncertainty.
Nowhere is the demand felt more strongly than in the young. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the percentage of teens reporting feelings of sadness or hopelessness jumped from 26 to 37% between 2009 and 2019, increasing to 44% in 2021.
School used to be a safe haven. It used to be a place that felt like there was structure and we understood what was going to happen. But the last couple of years has shown that we don't really always know.
Kittleson says at the onset of the pandemic, there was a drop-off in services initially as people worked through the unknown, but that changed as the pandemic continued. Isolation taking its toll.
When you don't leave the house for a while, you're not seeing your friends and family, that can really take its toll. So that's where we started to really see an increase, was when people were isolated and feeling worried.
Young folks aren't the only ones seeing an increase in anxiety and depression. According to the American Psychological Association, rates of anxiety among U.S. adults were about 4 times higher between April 2020 and August 2021 than they were in 2019. Wild Tree is having difficulty keeping up with the demand, but the increase may also be the result of mental health becoming less of a social stigma.
I would say primary care doctors, teachers, administrators, even bosses at jobs are now making referrals to mental health the first line. So when they see something come in, they don't just ignore it anymore. They really encourage people to access those resources.
As children and parents enter a new school year, Kittleson suggests allowing time and space for the transition and suggests parents be flexible with their kids. But if once the routine sets in and things still feel off, she says it's a good time to reach out for help, as parents are the first line of defense.
As parents, it's really being mindful and watching their children, checking out if there's any changes in behavior. Are they maybe refusing things, like refusing to go to school or dropping out of sports that they used to like? Are they sitting at home just on their phone and not really going out as much? That's a really good place to look first, is those first warning signs before anything gets worse.
After decades of participating in an annual fundraiser, a White Bear Lake resident found herself in need of help.
The community rallied around her, and producer Mary Klein spoke with her to find out how their generosity will make life easier during this difficult time.
The next tour to bar will be Saturday, August 5th, 2023. So we'll have Barb, and Paula.
mad at me. I know it's going to relieve her. She talks about her medical bills and how it like affects them. And it's like, I just got another bill, I just got another bill. So like she said, it's going to pay for all of her oxygen bills.
Stay where you are. Stay where you are.
That's huge. Never in a million years would I think that I would be someone who needed to benefit from that. It does relieve a lot of stress, a lot of financial stress for my family right now, so I am very grateful. Yeah, I always see how the other families handle it, and you know, especially the one who received it before the pandemic, and how much just really it helps your family. I never thought I'd be that person, but it lifts a huge amount of stress off of my life, which I am forever grateful.
I love you, Shelly.
We're going to take a break, but coming up,
We'll tell you how you can get some hands-on experience when it comes to police work. The Citizen Police Academy is all about a hands-on experience with police work, and Sergeant John Vetty is here to tell us what is in store for students this session. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. We're very excited about our current 2022 Citizens Police Academy. We have community members that live in our city, work in our city, maybe go to school in the area, that are going to be joining us for an 8-week course. It's going to be on Monday nights, and they're going to learn all kinds of things about different police topics with the opportunity to do things hands-on, put themselves in the shoes of police officers, learn about topics, be able to ask questions, meet officers inside our department, as well as other staff members, and then they have the opportunity to go on a ride-along towards the end or completion upon the class. So we always get a great community response with this event. It creates partnerships. We literally have people that come back and engage with us for years to come, and we can't be more excited for this.
So, Citizens Police Academy, they're not going to be running around in uniforms and responding to calls with us, right? It's classroom, but hands-on.
Yeah, I mean, no, they won't have uniforms, unless we recruit them to join our career professionally,
Right.
which is always, and sometimes people do get influenced. They say, maybe this is something I want to do after some proper schooling. But no, it is a volunteer opportunity. Once again, it's classroom sessions, it's being able to meet with us, it's being able to have good conversations and ask questions. But we do things such as we have them go through traffic stops. We put themselves in a scenario where they'd be the one pulling somebody over, and they get to see how it feels and how that should be handled. They learn about crime scenes. They get to learn about domestic assaults. They get to learn about training that police officers have to go through. And we give them the experience to be able to do things like learn about proper use of force and arrest procedures, give them the opportunity to practice that hands-on. For those that wish to do so, we'll bring them down to our firearms range to be able to try out some of our equipment. They learn about SWAT, they get a canine demo, really a lot of cool different things. So it's not just sitting there listening to people talk, but it's also getting some hands-on experience and learning about our profession and making the connections. And most people that go through this, we've been doing this for about 20 years, they come out saying, wow, there's a lot of things I really learned. I had no idea the police had to deal with this. Or I had no idea some of the stressors that police officers have to go through. And wow, police are human beings too, just like, you know, me and my family. So it's really such an engaging and a quality experience, not only for us, we get to meet great community members and develop those relationships, but for the people that go through the academy, they really come out learning a lot, and they get to be ambassadors for us if they choose.
And it's not scary or dangerous for them. It's fun, it's educational,
No.
it's being involved, being able to ask questions, learning more, right?
Absolutely. We won't push anyone past the comfort level that they want to go. We have some opportunities to do things, and if they don't feel comfortable doing them, that's okay. They'll sit back and continue to watch. But nothing's dangerous, of course. It's all well regulated, and we have staff every week. We have different officers that come in and talk, so that's one of the great things is you get to meet so many of our White Bear Lake police officers, and you have fun. I mean, it's really a fun experience, and people create friendships too. They meet people in the academy they never met, and you know, they develop long-lasting friendships.
So what is
and it's absolutely free.
It is free. What is the feedback? What class or what training or what portion do people normally talk about the most?
Well, we get people that say, wow, I've never, you know, fired off a firearm, and we safely do that in our range, and they're surprised to see, you know, a muzzle flash come from the firearm. We also have people that go through the traffic stop scenario, and they're like, wow, I didn't realize how risky it was walking up to a car in the dark, and now I know what these officers go through. Sometimes we act out scenarios, and you know, they say, wow, this is putting myself under that stress of pretending to be a police officer. I can't imagine what the women and men in law enforcement do every day, and how they do it. So it's very engaging, but they really have a lot of fun, and yeah, I encourage everybody to join.
And we've already got people signing up, but there's still time if they're watching this at the beginning of October, right?
Yeah, we start Monday nights in October from 6 to 9 p.m. Through October and the end of November. So if you're watching this and it's early on in October and you still want to join, please reach out to myself, Sergeant John Vetty, or another Sergeant Isaac Tuma. Also go to the City of White Bear Lake's webpage. All the information is there. Just look up Citizens Police Academy. We can still get you in the first week or two.
Okay.
Once it's the end of October into November, we're getting close to being done. But we are going to offer this every year. So if you can't make it this round, we hope to get you in for future years to come.
Pay attention onto our social media sites.
Absolutely. Follow us on Facebook.
Yes. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Several years ago, we featured a story about Captain Dale Hager after he'd suffered a stroke. We recently caught up with him for an update about how he's giving back.
I feel extremely fortunate.
In our most vulnerable moments, we often can't imagine the silver linings to come.
I think all the time how lucky I am.
Nearly 3 years ago, White Bear Lake Police Captain Dale Hager suffered a stroke at his work desk. Worst case scenarios racing through his mind.
As soon as I got up, I fell right under the desk right here.
He was fortunate, though, to have first responders recognize his signs and give him immediate care.
I know I benefited from having a stroke inside a public safety building. It was convenient. If you're ever going to have a stroke, that's the place to have it.
That quick response, along with the doctor who treated him, saved his life.
He made a real life or death decision for me, and he had to make it, you know, on the spot. He made the right call. Since that moment, you know, I've just kind of, he and I have developed a bit of a friendship.
Hager says his quick recovery made him realize how lucky he is, if not mixed with some feelings of guilt.
But I kind of had survivor's remorse a little bit, you know, like I felt guilty that I got out of my stroke relatively harm-free, and other people aren't so lucky.
In an effort to give back, he joined the American Heart Association's board, helping them with a campaign this summer to educate people on the importance of administering CPR during a suspected opioid overdose.
The folks at American Heart Association, they have an unbelievable staff that works very diligently to try to get this message out, and they have been getting this message out. We've reached out to many public safety partners in areas that we feel like there are a lot of folks of high risk of having an opioid overdose, and those people obviously that live in that community.
In the past several decades, the CPR model has moved away from giving breaths in the hopes of appealing to more people.
They kind of found that people were apprehensive about doing CPR because they had to put their mouth on somebody else's mouth to give rescue breaths, right? And so the leaders of the CPR world, which I'm not one of, decided maybe a couple decades ago, what's the most important part of CPR? It's chest compressions. Make sure that you start that heart beating.
But breaths are what overdose victims may need most, especially considering their age. According to the Minnesota Department of Health, 15 to 34-year-olds had the greatest number of ER visits for opioid-involved overdoses in 2020.
One of the points for the American Heart Association's message here is that rescue breaths would be nice, and it would help, especially with those younger folks who aren't having a bad problem, a hard time with their heart, they're having a hard time with breathing.
Hager says he appreciates the work and advocacy of the American Heart Association, educating the public on stroke and heart health. It's one of the many positive takeaways of his stroke. It's why he shares his story, hoping it may help others.
It's a success story, right? I turned out okay, and I think people like to see that when people turn out okay, like you can have a stroke and you can come back from it. 3 years later, people are coming up to me and talking to me, and I'll give them just a little information that I know from my story, and they'll go, oh, you know, I didn't know that. And they didn't know that about strokes or whatever. And I think that's great, right? Because especially if they're maybe a little bit older folks, and I can tell them a little bit more about signs and symptoms and recognition of a stroke. And makes me feel great that maybe that's going to make a difference in somebody's life that they know as well, if not their own.
We're going to take a break, but when we return,
We find out why a local volunteer is inspired to do good.
if you spend any time at local events, chances are you've seen the man in our next story.
It's impressive how much time he dedicates to helping the police and fire departments, but it's why he does so much that is truly moving.
And we've been having the neighborhood night out for 30 plus years.
White Bear Lake resident Kevin Schmidt has been opening his doors to neighbors for decades.
The neighbors love it.
It's his home on Douglas Lane where we first met, welcoming me and White Bear Lake Police and Fire during Night to Unite.
Officer Tracy's been coming to our house for the parties for a number of years, and when she shows up, it's just a rousing cheers for it.
It's what inspired him to get involved in helping the police department and the community. He's been a member of CERT, the Community Emergency Response Team, for 6 years.
Police drop the gun! Police drop the gun right now!
And volunteers at countless events, including safety camp, active shooter drills, and the annual bike rodeo.
If they're handing out free helmets, and if one kid who didn't have a helmet, he went off his bike and it prevented him from having brain damage or an injury, or if they fixed the brakes so that they didn't have an accident, that made it all worthwhile.
But his great relationship with police and fire isn't his only inspiration. It's been his wife, Barb, who's led by example over the years, always giving to those in need.
One year for Christmas, all she wanted, she told me, I just want $500. I said, well, you can have $500 whenever you want. It doesn't have to be for Christmas, but I found out from the listening house, she didn't even tell me, she bought 100 $5 gift cards at Burger King, which is right across the street from the listening house, and gave it to the listening house to hand out to anybody who might be having a bad day and would need a hot drink and a sandwich or something.
And when she was diagnosed with cancer on Easter of 2019, the community they'd supported for so long came together to support them.
The CERT team and White Bear Lake Police Department would check in and say, hey, is there anything I can do and anything can help? They were phenomenal.
Barb passed in 2021, but the house the two shared remains as it was. Reminders of Barb felt throughout the home.
She made this for the state fair. She got a purple ribbon on a needlepoint. This is still sort of a shrine for her in here. We've been slow to take it apart, you know.
And her rescue pups, Ladybug and Juniper, holding court where Barb spent her final days. Her presence remaining so strong, even her voice still greets callers on the answering machine. While the backyard blooms with many of the flowers she'd planted and toiled over, now under the watchful eye of Kevin.
Stunting all the other ones, but now that's okay.
The couple raised 2 kids here, who now raise their father's spirits.
This is a lot of memories in this room.
He says they've been a huge source of comfort, as has the community, offering help just as he's offered time and time again.
When the opportunities came up, it was a good for me to go out and be with people and be involved in these events. It was important to me, and so I knew it was important to her.
Kevin is a really great guy, and what you see is what you get with him. He helps out in anything that we've asked him to do. We put him through a lot of different things, so we appreciate Kevin and people like Kevin that volunteer and help out both the fire and police department.
Absolutely. You know, it's great to see the community has people who are involved like Kevin.
Yes.
That wraps up this edition of Lake Area Beat. I'm Kurt Friesen.
I'm Tracy Menarchuk. We'll see you next time. Tried to say teens. It
Plural.
came out tins.
Tens?
It was an I. It was an I sound, not an E sound. Sorry. I edited myself.
Oh, I forgot to do our warm-up.
No, we
Oh
don't.
boy, we're good.
I already warmed up.
Yep, we're good. I know I'm making a squinty face. It's not attractive. Squinty.
Yeah, she's like, God,
Whatever.
They're
just
terrible.
do your squinty
They're
face.
terrible.
And you just read whatever you want to read. Just move on.
You know, it'd be nice if she would just smile and be like, that was perfect.
So good.
Just once.
Brilliant.
Fine?
Yeah. We
Okay,
can do that.
perfect.
No,
Unless it's like the I team.
Let's see.
See what I did there?
Yeah. Or I was gonna say, or there's me. It's not I, but there's me.
There is me and team. Yeah.
Okay. What happened? I didn't touch anything.
Yes, I know. I'm dealing with a lot here.
All right.
I feel like I should be compensated. I'm just saying.
Fine, I'll turn a little bit more this way then.